Okay, so this is the calculus question, and this is fairly difficult. Now, this is kind of bordering on an honours question, really, or kind of going towards it. It's something that I wouldn't expect to come up on calculus. It's all about forming and solving a simultaneous equation. Does come up though in a slightly simpler form. It tends to be on the patterns, sequences, and series questions. So we'll have a go at it anyway and see. Hopefully you can understand some of it, if not at all. So basically, this here, as you know, is our formula for dive. So it's all about a diver diving off a 10-meter board. You've seen that in the previous parts. And this is the most important thing here. And there's two other important things that we need to know. We need to know the time 0.5 seconds and 1 second. So it says that the diver performs a different dive in a different competition, so reaches a maximum height of 0.75, so we'll use that in a minute, above the diving platform after 0.5 seconds. So that's my time. So we need to form two equations here and then solve them simultaneously. And if you look here, 0.5 is my time, and sure look, we have t here for time as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to sub in this 0.5 in here to get our first equation. And then we're going to do the same thing again for 1 second, and we get a second equation. And once we do that, we can start to solve it. So I'm just going to write down this here. So at squared plus bt plus 10. So that's very important. That gives us the height of the diver after a specific amount of time. Let's sub in t is equal to 0.5. And even if you're unsure about how to do this in an exam, if you see something like this, just start subbing it in, you'll get good marks for that. So t is equal to 0.5. So I have a times 0.5 squared plus b times 0.5 plus 10. Now that gives us the height of the diver, but we actually know the height of the diver because when you think about it, it's a 10-meter board, so that's a given, and she reaches a maximum height of 0.75, so she jumps up 0.75, so the total height is going to be 10.75. We can simplify that down. 0.5 squared becomes 0.025. Alright, that, or is it? No, 0.025, sorry. So, 0.025, sorry. A plus 0.5b plus 10 is all equal to 10.75. Now what we know, and we've seen before in algebra, is that we've got a number here. We can bring it over here and change the sign. So let's bring it over here. So I get minus 10.75, that goes away. And I'm going to be left with this equation here. 0.25a plus 0.5b minus, because 10 minus 10.75 minus 0.75 is all equal to 0. And I can start to simplify that down if I want. So, or simplify it. I don't want decimals in there. So I need to figure out what can I multiply across by to make that a whole number, that a whole number, and that a whole number. And 4 will work. Now you can use it with decimals, but it'll make your life a little bit more tricky. So let's times across by 4. Times across by 4, that becomes 1a, or just a. 4 times 0.25 gives me 1. Plus 4 times 0.5 gives me 2b. Minus 3 is all equal to 0. And that is my first equation. So I'll put a 1 beside that. So I've got an A, I've got a B, I've got a number. Right, I can use that in my simultaneous equations, but I need to figure out a second equation that will work for it. So, going back to this 1 second here, well, we can do the exact same thing now. Right, t is equal to 1. So, so we got t is equal to 1. Now, I'm going to sub 1 in here. I'm going to get a times 1 squared plus b times 1 plus 10 is all equal to a height. It tells us in the question, right? After 1 second, she's at the same height again. So she jumps up 0.5 seconds, she's up 0.75 meters. She comes back down, she hits the same height, which is just the diving board height. So that's just 10. So she's back to 10 meters. Remember that she's standing on the 10 meter board. Bring this across, minus 10. They cancel. So I'm left with a squared, 1 squared is just a, because 1 squared is 1, plus b times 1 is just b, is all equal to 0. Okay, so that's all equal to 0. And that is my second equation. And now I can just solve for a and b using Sim Eqns equations. So let's write them out here. I've got the first one and my second one. So I've got a plus 2b minus 3 is equal to 0. I've got a plus b is equal to 0 here. I'm just going to slightly change it. I'm going to bring my 3 over here because that's how we work with Sim Eqns equations. So I'm going to have a plus 2b minus 3 over here becomes plus 3, equal to 3. And I have a plus b is equal to 0. And again, I need to get rid of one of these. So I need to get rid of a's or b's. Get rid of a's is probably the easiest. So an a and an a won't get rid of each other, they're both the same signs. So I need to make one of them a negative. So change the sign of this, send this multiplied across by minus 1, means I'm going to have to change the sign of this, and change the sign of this, but 0 won't really make a difference there. So what I do is, a minus a goes away, 2b minus b is b, 3 minus 0 is just 3, so b is equal to 3. And in order to figure out what a is, I sub b back in. So I take my first equation, so I'm just going to I can take my second equation if I want, it's probably easier, but I'll go with my first one. So I get a plus 2b minus 3 is equal to 0. Sub b in, I get a plus 2 times 3 minus 3 is equal to 0. A plus 6 minus 3 is equal to 0. A plus 3 plus 3 is equal to 0, and a is going to be equal to minus 3 if I bring 3 across. So bring your 3 across, becomes minus 3. So I get b is equal to 3, I get a is equal to minus 3, and b is equal to 3. Difficult question, takes a little bit of thinking. It probably won't come up this hard, but it could come up, you know, as the end of maybe a patterns question, which looks a bit more likely than this. But it's the same principles.